This is rabbit zonker. It comes in pine squirrel, it comes in mink, it comes in a variety of different critter materials. Comes in all kinds of colors. You can get it in olive, black, brown, orange, white. I thought I had white, but somebody had beat me to it, and it was all gone. So this is the material we're going to use. Mylar tubing. Again, it comes in different sizes. This is medium. It comes in a large, comes in a small, extra small, and that's what we're going to be using for the body. And the first step is we are going to put lead on this hook, and I'm going to use 25/100ths because I want to make sure this sinks. And I don't, you know, I'm just not touching anything. I don't know what's going on here. I don't count the wraps. I go by eyeball. I want to have, I'm going to put the thread behind the hook, and I'm going to just lay a little thread base back, and I'm going to go back to where the bend starts, maybe into the bend just a little bit. I'm going to get rid of my tag end, and then I'm going to go forward, and once you get into that lead wrap, you know, the wraps will just follow the lead wraps automatically. I'm going to go up front, I'm going to lay a little bit of a thread base, and then I'm going to go all the way back behind my lead, and I'm going to let that hang about where the barb would be. Now, the next thing we've got to tie on is one of those little mylar strips. And before you can tie that on, you have your tweezers in your kit. You can see inside this, that cloth fill, you're just going to grab your tweezers and carefully pull that out. That's just waste. We're not going to need that. And you see how it kind of fuzzes at the end? That's okay for right now. Now I'm going to lay that right over, and I'm going to try and pull that back so that I've got a little bit hanging back behind, and I'm going to make some real easy wraps at first, then I'm going to pull it tight. If you don't do those easy wraps at first, it's going to want to twist on you and it'll frustrate you. Okay? Now I've got to tie that off. So I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to do a half hitch. I'm going to go over that mylar. I'm going to bring it back to where I tied in. I'm trying to keep that as a narrow a tie-in as I can. And I'm going to get that half hitched. I've got 3. I'm going to do one more half hitch over that. And get that tied in. And now I'm going to tie that off. I'm going to have to cut my thread here because I'm going to have to tie on the front of this hook for my next step. Now, you've got to kind of eyeball. It's kind of hard to see where the end of the eye is. So you've got to kind of figure that out. And then I'm going to go behind that eye, and I'm going to try to make a couple of really easy wraps And then I'm going to pull that tight again. Okay? And I'm going to tie off my tag end here. And I'm going to eyeball that. That's looking pretty good. Okay. Now I'm going to have, see where it twisted on me when I tried to pull that tight? Don't worry, it will twist right back the way it was. I'm going to half hitch that off so it's not going to come undone on me. And then I'm going to leave my bobbin hanging. Leave it hanging. Now I'm going to try to clip off all this extra at the front. Watch that you don't try to cut the hook with the tips of your scissors. If you have some old clunky scissors, this would be a good time to use them, because this mylar is actually some pretty tough stuff. And it will dull a pair of scissors pretty quickly. Okay? I've got most of that out of my way. Okay. All right, I've got most of it out of there. Now, I've cut the Zonker strips to about the right length. What I do, and I would recommend that you do that as well, I'm going to try and pare down the front of this Zonker a little bit. Do just a little bit more. Okay. And you can tell now that the front of that is hairless, pretty much. And I'm going to cut that into a V point, a pretty short V point. Okay, can you see that? Now I'm going to tie that, the tip of that point in. I'm going to get it in there pretty good, okay? And if anything, I am already crowding my eye, so I'm going to go back a little bit, and then that should lay right on top of your mylar. It should be kind of right on the top. Now, because I still have to tie this in back where I tied it, I still have to tie it in right back here. But I don't want to have to do more tying than I have to. So you should have the hackle. I'm going to peel that fuzzy stuff off the end, and that should work pretty well. I have way more stem than I'm going to need, so I'm going to cut that off, and I'm going to try and cut it at a little bit of an angle. And if you recall, it's a lot easier to wrap hackle if you start at the big end. So I want to leave just a little bit of stem for my first wrap. And now I've got to make a few wraps with that hackle, and I'm going to tie this off. I can see where I'm going to have to do some more mylar trimming. When Joe does the close-ups in his editing, man, I see all kinds of tying mistakes after the fact. Okay. So I'm going to get my hackle plier, and I'm going to grab this and hope to get a few wraps of hackle on here. To get away from me, and then I'm going to trim my hackle. Okay, and I've got enough there that I'll be able to use that probably on the second one. Now, because that hackle is kind of leaning forward, again I'm going to wet my fingers. I'm going to try and grab all of that hackle and catch it so that as I'm wrapping it in, it's going to force those barbs backwards a little bit. Okay? Now, all I have to do is I'm going to finish making the head for this fly. And, you know, you can make it as big or little as you want. That's good enough for me. I'm going to whip finish this. And that 4 wraps ought to do it. Pull that tight. And I'm going to cut my thread because we have one more step before we finish. Okay? Now, I'm going to have to pull, I'm going to wet my fingertips, and I'm going to get this Zonker pulled forward so that I've got bare skin right where I need to tie that in. And I'm going to get my thread ready to go. And again, I'm going to just make some easy wraps right now because I know I'm not exactly where I want it. And I can still adjust that. I can pull that back where I want it. Now I can cinch it up. And I'm going to try and keep every thread wrap right on top of the one in front of it. And then I'm going to get rid of my extra thread. Okay? And that's looking pretty good. My strip might be a little bit long, but I'm not going to worry about that for this. Okay, now here's that knot again. Now I'm going to try to back this off a little bit so you guys can see this knot. Okay? Now I've got the thread pointed right at my chest. Okay, watch this knot. Because you're going to have trouble getting all the way over this big blob of fly. So I'm going to bring my fingers down too wide. I'm going to just bring that over and I'm going to bring the thread. It's just going to hang right beneath. Then I'm going to twist my hand, go all the way over, pinch it where I want the knot, and I caught rabbit fur where I didn't want it. Dadgummit.
There it is again.
Well,
Just in and out.
do as I say, not as I do. Okay. Okay. Now they make a, I don't know if I even brought it here. They make a whip finish tool that is much bigger than normal size. There, I don't.
Your sleeve is barely touching. I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't know what to do with it.
I don't know. Okay.
This is cutting out a lot.
So I don't know what to do in that.
No, you're not doing it.
Yeah. So this back up there a little bit. Now this will all fold back nicely. And like I say, this one, I don't normally have a tail that long. I'm afraid that I might get short bit. So I'm going to cut a little bit of that off. And there is a rabbit zonker.
You don't do the string all the